The lock clicked soft, intentional wrong. Someone was inside my house. Before I could reach the foyer, the trap fired. A razor-thin trip line snapped, a hinge dropped, and a full gallon of neon yellow industrial dye dumped straight onto the intruder's head. A shriek tore through the doorway. Karen Granson, the oversized HOA president in her blinding white suit, stumbled into the porch light, dripping yellow like a busted paint grenade. She froze when she spotted the camera glowing above my door. Her glare cut through the dye. "You think this is your win?" she hissed. "Someone else already has the real key." The door behind her softly closed. Karen didn't wait a single day to strike back. The morning after the dye incident, she marched into the HOA meeting room like a storm in pearls, slamming her clipboard onto the podium so hard the mic squealed. Heads snapped up. Conversations died instantly. "Order," she barked, even though no one was speaking. People shifted uneasily. Even covered in faint yellow stains she hadn't fully scrubbed off, Karen radiated the same bulldozing authority she always did. Broad-shouldered, chin high, moving with the confidence of someone who believed rules were written for her, never against her. She didn't mention the break-in. She didn't mention my cameras. She didn't mention her ruined white suit. Instead, she flipped a page and announced a brand new emergency compliance initiative. Quarterly garage inspections. Mandatory home walkthroughs. Surprise safety checks. Violations doubled. Every line was aimed directly at me. Sam leaned toward me, whispering without looking up. "She's probing for another way in." My wife's cybersecurity job meant she'd spent years spotting hostile behavior long before most people sensed danger, and everything about Karen's speech was a retaliatory escalation. When Karen's eyes finally landed on me, she didn't smile. She didn't blink. She just tapped her clipboard once and said, "Some homeowners need extra supervision." It wasn't policy. It was a warning. The first hit came quietly. A package marked delivered vanished from our porch. Then our morning paper, always placed neatly by the mat, began showing up crushed in the bushes. Not random, not careless, targeted. The cameras Sam monitored all day for work caught the real punch: Karen's yellow-stained SUV circling our house. Once at 8 a.m., again at noon, 4 times after sunset. "She's patterning your routine," Sam muttered, adjusting the playback. Her cybersecurity instincts always kicked in when something felt off. She'd spent years tracking digital threats, and Karen was acting exactly like one. By the 4th pass, Karen didn't even pretend she was driving somewhere. She parked at the end of the street, engine off, lights dead, just watching the house from the dark interior of her SUV. Sam zoomed in on the footage. "John, she's waiting for an opening." And for the first time, I felt it, that cold, prickling sensation that meant this wasn't petty HOA nonsense anymore. This was surveillance, and it was only the beginning. The next escalation didn't knock. It walked right up to my home. A man I didn't recognize strolled down our sidewalk, slow and purposeful. When he reached our yard, he stopped at the gas meter, looked directly at it, then at our front windows. Sam replayed the footage frame by frame. "Look at his hands. He's checking for access points." That's when my stomach dropped. 3 weeks earlier, contractors had left a temporary lockbox on the gas pipe containing a spare key for our front door. They were supposed to pick it up. I'd forgotten. I sprinted outside with a flashlight. The lockbox hung open, metal bent from a pry tool. The spare key was gone. Back inside, Sam pulled up our smart locks entry log. A red alert blinked. 2:14 p.m. Manual key entry attempt. Failed. The first try didn't work. The next one would. Sam whispered. "She's not circling anymore. She's testing your defenses." My home didn't feel like a home. It felt breached. And Karen hadn't even stepped inside yet. 2 nights later, everything went dark. Not a flicker, a kill switch. Our house dropped into silent blackout while every home around us glowed normally. Refrigerator dead, AC dead, network dead. Sam rushed to her equipment, flipping emergency switches. Our generator kicked in, humming like a heartbeat restarting. She pulled up the utility diagnostics. "John, someone manually shut off power, ate the street box." They opened it with a key. I filed a report the next morning. The utility rep confirmed it. A property manager had requested our disconnection. The name, Hilton County HOA. No apology, no mistake, just weaponized bureaucracy. The following night, our Wi-Fi collapsed mid-movie. Phones lost connection. Even Sam's mesh backups failed. She grabbed her handheld scanner and swept the house. "Stronger outside," she murmured. We found it buried in the front shrubs, a palm-sized high-power Wi-Fi jammer blinking red. Military-grade equipment, not cheap, not casual. When I lifted it with gloved hands, a large man appeared at the edge of our yard. Jacket logo, Gus's Handyman Services, built like a fridge, walking with intent. "Board president sent me," he growled. "Inspection. Move." He stepped toward my porch. I stepped in front of him. 1 second later, Sam racked the shotgun behind me, muzzle down but unmistakable. Gus froze. "This isn't over," he spat, but he backed away. For now. By morning we had 4 case numbers open with Hilton County PD. Blackout tampering, fraudulent disconnect, illegal signal jamming, attempted forced entry. But every officer who came out wore the same tight frown, like they wanted to help but knew touching HOA politics was radioactive. "You need solid proof," one finally said quietly. "And video. Lots of it." Sam didn't wait. She tore out every vulnerable camera and replaced them with battery-powered 4G units hidden in a birdhouse, a fake rock, the attic vent, and even Nate's garden gnome. We built a ghost network, a mesh of encrypted nodes that rerouted automatically if jammed. "You're preparing for a siege?" I said. Sam didn't look up. "No, I'm preparing for the moment she stops hiding. The next strike wouldn't be subtle. It would be the one that forced her into the open. We needed bait, something irresistible. Something that would pull Karen out of the shadows and into a trap we could prove. So I built a safe, a heavy fireproof safe loaded with bricks and a broken laptop, nothing of value. Hidden under the padding, we planted a GPS-enabled tracker that pinged Sam's phone every 60 seconds. Then I accidentally mentioned to chatty neighbor Nate that I'd moved some valuables home because of all the HOA chaos. Nate's eyes widened. Oh, the gossip would fly. That night, Sam and I staged a fake date night, drove out of the neighborhood, then parked a block away with the live camera feeds open. At 9:47 p.m., a black van rolled in. Gus slipped out, crowbar in hand. He pried open our kitchen window and vanished inside. 5 minutes later, he staggered out carrying the decoy safe. He shoved it into the van and disappeared into the night. Sam's phone buzzed. The tracker lit up, moving across town. "Got him," she whispered. We weren't chasing a thug. We were walking straight toward the proof that would burn Karen's entire empire down. And we knew she wouldn't let us take that shot without fighting back. By the time the emergency recall meeting opened, the clubhouse was packed wall to wall. Neighbors pressed against beige walls, whispering like a crowd waiting for a verdict. Even the air felt tense. Karen marched in late yellow stains, still ghosting the edges of her hairline. Gus trailed behind her like a shadow with a pulse. Barry and Linda followed, clutching clipboards like shields. She didn't bother sitting. "This petition is illegitimate," she snapped into the microphone. "And the person responsible for spreading lies." People flinched at the volume, but the fear that once filled this room wasn't there anymore. I stood and walked to the podium. "Mrs. Gable," I said gently, "would you share what happened to you?" The elderly widow rose slowly, her voice trembling but clear. She told them about the attic inspection, the invented code violations, the $3,000 she'd been bullied into paying Gus in cash. The room erupted. Extortion. "She did that to us too. She's been stealing for years." Karen slammed her gavel face, reddening beneath the faint yellow tint. "This meeting is out of order." She nodded sharply at Gus. He lumbered forward, reaching for my arm. But this time the room didn't shrink back. It turned against them. Before Gus's hand could close around my sleeve, Nate swung his cane out like a ninja tripwire. Gus crashed forward, taking a folding table and 3 boxes of powdered donuts with him. The room exploded, shouts, chairs, scraping neighbors, pulling Karen's cronies away from the front. I didn't move from the podium. "Since Karen wants order," I said, "let's show the truth in order." Sam tapped the tablet in the front row. The projector flickered to life. Clip 1, Gus breaking into my house. Crowbar. Window frame. Safe dragged across the kitchen floor. Gasps rippled through the room. Clip 2, pawn shop footage Abe gave us, Gus selling the same safe. A voice from the back shouted, "That's the same guy who inspected my gutters." Karen tried to unplug the projector, but Sam cut her off. "You'll want to see the next part." Clip 3, the yellow dye trap. Karen opening my door illegally. Her white suit exploding into neon yellow ruin. Her planner catching a perfect starburst stain. Then Sam froze the frame. She held up a printed screenshot from Karen's own HOA Facebook post 2 days after the break-in. Karen, smiling at a bake sale, holding the exact same planner, with the exact same yellow starburst stain. No words needed. The room went dead quiet. Karen's power base collapsed in an instant. The following week's block party should have smelled like grills and sunscreen. Instead, it felt like a battlefield waiting for the flag to drop. Karen strutted in wearing a brand new white pantsuit, blinding, spotless, overconfident. Gus, Barry, and Linda flanked her, moving through the crowd like bouncers at a bar that hated them. They pushed toward the voting table, barking threats under their breath. Sam's voice buzzed in my earpiece. All cameras live. Wasp drone hovering. Bucket teams ready. I hovered near our grill hand under the table where the red trigger button waited. Karen slammed her fist onto the ballot table. This sham vote is void. No one moves until I say, that was the cue. I pressed the button. High above 4 hidden porch mechanisms tipped in perfect sync. 20 gallons of neon yellow dye fell like judgment from the sky. The splash was biblical. Karen and her cronies stood frozen, dripping, sputtering, glowing yellow like melted traffic cones. The crowd didn't even laugh at first. They just stared wide-eyed, soaking in the spectacle. Then someone snorted, and the whole neighborhood exploded into cathartic, uncontrollable laughter. 2 police cars rolled up at the exact moment the laughter peaked. Detective Miller stepped out, expression halfway between amusement and relief. He held up the warrants. Karen Granson, Gus Keller, Barry Rhodes, Linda Towner, you're under arrest. Karen shrieked as yellow dye streamed down her face. You did this, Winters. This isn't over. But the cuffs were already on, and for the first time in months, the street belonged to us. The moment Karen's yellow-soaked crew was driven away in police cars, the neighborhood changed. Tangibly. As if someone had finally opened a window in a stale room and let real air inside. People didn't scatter. They gathered. Neighbors who had avoided eye contact for years walked right up to Sam and me, sharing quick hugs, shaking hands, clapping me on the back. Someone wheeled out a speaker. Someone else started cooking. Within an hour, the block party felt lighter, safer, like the neighborhood had finally exhaled. Kids splashed in the inflatable pool, pointing at the dye puddle, slowly staining the asphalt a bright sunflower yellow. Grown-ups kept glancing at it like a war relic, a reminder of the moment a tyrant finally fell. At the emergency HOA meeting 2 days later, the clubhouse wasn't fearful or quiet. It was buzzing. For the first time in years, homeowners sat where they wanted, spoke up without flinching, and actually smiled. The interim board, elected on the spot, voided every fine Karen's administration had issued in the past year, refunding thousands to over 30 families. The vote was unanimous. The cheer that erupted rattled ceiling tiles. People weren't just relieved, they were free. And our neighborhood finally felt like a place worth defending. The legal avalanche began the moment Detective Miller walked Karen into booking neon yellow dye, still dripping down her blazer like melted caution tape. Gus flipped first trading testimony for a deal. He confessed to the break-in, the inspections, the threats, and the safe theft. His cooperation unraveled Barry and Linda, who were hit with a stack of civil suits from homeowners they'd intimidated. Then came the paper trail tying Karen to the fraudulent power disconnect, the signal jammer, and the extortion patterns Sam and I had mapped on our whiteboard. Mrs. Gable's notarized statement sat on top of the pile like a hammer. Karen's attorney pushed for trial until the DA dropped the final blow: felony, trespass, conspiracy, fraud, and harassment of multiple residents. She pled out. She received county jail time, probation, restitution, and much to the neighborhood's delight, a 5-year ban from serving on any HOA in Hilton County. Even her signature thick heels and coordinated pastel suits couldn't help her then. Meanwhile, the new board got to work. Speed bumps were approved. Trash schedules relaxed. People planted whatever flowers they liked. Hedges for once were left alone. The neighborhood didn't just recover, it reinvented itself. And Sam and I could finally breathe without checking the windows. Within a month, the change was so strong, you could feel it walking down the street. Nate started leaving cookies on people's porches. Dave hosted grill nights. Someone put up twinkle lights that stretched across 3 yards without a single complaint. Then came the joke that turned into a tradition. Nate planted a tiny garden gnome on his lawn, painted bright neon yellow, with a tiny clipboard glued to its hand. The neighbors loved it so much they made their own. Soon, 100 little yellow gnomes stood guard across the neighborhood like a silent promise. Sam and I, finally at peace, fell back into our routines. Quiet mornings, slow coffee, tinkering in the garage. I even repainted the front door, the exact shade of blue Karen once fined me for. The new board called it bold. For a while, everything felt perfect, settled, until the day I checked the mail. The handle felt sticky. A smear of fresh yellow dye clung to my thumb. Not the faded, weathered yellow from old gnome paint. Fresh, wet. My stomach tightened. On the metal handle was a clean fingerprint pressed deliberately into the smear. Small, not Karen's, not Gus's. Someone else had touched my mailbox with a marked hand, someone who wanted me to know they'd been there. Sam replayed the mailbox cam footage, zooming in frame by frame. That print wasn't accidental, she said quietly. It was left as a signal. I looked out the window at the line of yellow gnomes standing watch, their painted smiles glowing in the sunlight. The war was over, but the die on my thumb said otherwise. Game on.